All righty, how's everyone doing this evening? You, we
Hey,
still got
hey,
folks.
assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
Assalamualaikum.
assalam, Sister Wilson. How my brother Tim doing?
All right, all right,
Doing
Doing
good.
good. Doing good.
Good, good.
all right.
All right, we got
You got that. Oh,
one second. Oh, I'm getting feedback over here. All right, we got more folks coming in the room here, so that is good. We have folk on time, and we have a few folks watching via via YouTube. So we may have other folks joining that way. All right, let me get everybody in here. All righty. Me admit. Uh-oh. Where's the admit button? There we go. All right, admit Sister Claudia. All right, room is filling up. All righty. All righty. So we'll give it another 2 or 3 minutes and let folks get in here, and we could have us a good conversation, a good diaspora dialogue. I see a few of my South African family, they have joined. It's late for us over here in SA. It is 11 o'clock. So shout out to my South African brother who joined staying up late with me because I'm a night owl. All right. And if we, depending on how many more people join, we may do a round of introductions. Because it's good to know who's on the call, but I don't want to pressure anyone if they don't feel like, coming off mute if they want to be more of a spectator. But in the interest of everyone's time, I'll take a moment and kind of I should have had a co-host here who could assist with these admissions into the room. But let me start because I don't want to waste time. So, do we want to do a quick round of intros if you guys don't mind? I'll start and then maybe popcorn it to somebody else, and we'll get through it that way pretty quickly. My name is Assad. If you are those who are not familiar with me, native New Orleanian, currently living here in Johannesburg, South Africa. Currently working at the African Center for the Study of the United States at the University of Witwatersrand, where I manage the Diaspora project. So, for those who may not understand, while I'm heavily into this diaspora work, it is what I actually do for a living. And my goal is to connect African American institutions, organizations, and individuals with the African continent. We do that through three ways. Obviously, as academicians, we do that through research and joint publication, community engagement, and cultural exchange. And we can talk a bit more about that later. But let me pop it over to my sister Michaela and my brother Tim, who are on the call. If you guys want to introduce yourself, because they also live here in SA. Can you guys hear me?
Okay, apologies. We were
yeah,
having some
we trying to
technical
get we trying to get the
difficulties.
camera. Right.
But as long as you can hear us, that's great. I'm Akia Wilson,
And I'm Tim.
and we have a company, Zion Farms, here in Rudaport. It's in Johannesburg, but it's
And
Rudaport
Helderkrant,
and
yeah.
Helderkrant. And I'm a veteran, and my husband's an entrepreneur. And we have our family here with our two kids, and we've been here for about what
Going on 2
2
years.
years now.
Yeah.
And
Wow,
so,
time flies.
I
yeah, I
know. It
know.
flies quick. It flies quick.
And we really love it here in SA. It's been good to us, and we just love it. It's just all praises. We're just glad to be here.
All right, we'll pop it over to Brother Wilson Jones because I know that brother personally also, and I know he frequents South Africa.
Yes, sir. You're correct. I'm currently living in Jacksonville, Florida. Pretty much I've been in Florida all my life, but living in Jacksonville, and you're right, Mr. Doc. I've been in South Africa many times, and I figured I'd just get with a group and be meet other people. My main goal is to relocate there, but at the moment it's a difficult process, but eventually I believe I will get there.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Later on in this series, we'll talk about the immigration process. And just 2 days ago, DHA, the Department of Home Affairs, released a white paper calling for public comment on some new visa suggestions and immigration processes. So there will be some visa changes coming up, or at least depending on the response to the white paper, there may be some visa changes coming up, which will give more opportunities for skilled workers and highly skilled professionals, as well as visa by investment opportunities, meaning like if you invest so much money, whether you buy a house or into a business or whatever have you. So more visa options could be on the way to make it
Sounds
easier
good.
for those who are interested in relocating. But let's pop it over to Sister Tanya, because I know she also frequents the continent.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tanya Barnes, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Currently reside in Chesterfield, Virginia, about 30 miles outside of Richmond. 20-year Navy veteran. I actually work for the federal government right now. I'm a contract specialist, so I buy airplane parts, keep our warfighters in the air. Also, the owner of Next Stop Travels, travel agency, been in business about 6 years. And I visited South Africa in January of 2024, brought a small group with me. It was about 14 of us. Had an amazing time, fell in love with South Africa. Interested in, if not relocating, at least looking into buying some property and hoping to come back real soon. I'm not scheduled to come back until 2027. I'm trying to bring another group with me, but who knows what'll happen before then.
Thank you so much. I had the pleasure of meeting you when you were here. I think I met you over at
Stacy
Stacy and
Red.
Red's. Yeah, Stacy and Red's
Yes.
house.
And we
So let's
talked about
see.
group flights once too.
Oh, okay. Well, let's see. Let's see who else we got. Brother Blake.
What's going on, everybody? I appreciate the opportunity to dialogue. Thank you, Brother Assad, for putting this together. My name is Blake Townsend from the Midwest. I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana currently. We will be visiting the continent for the first time in a couple of weeks, actually. And I've got a couple of trips scheduled for the coming year to just investigate and learn more about the continent and the people and, remove the Western perspective from my mindset and find out the truth. So
Absolutely. What you doing in Baton Rouge?
I am a financial coach. I teach people something called infinite banking. I'm a real estate investor. I've been licensed in real estate for over a decade. I've helped brokerage a bunch of stuff for people for many years too. So
All right. Well, you're right up the street from my hometown, so
yeah.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Rochelle Nelson.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rochelle Nelson, and this is my husband.
Corbin Nelson. How's everybody doing?
And we are from Virginia. So, Tanya, I probably may have seen you before somewhere. We are in Hanover. But it's a pleasure to see everyone and looking forward to. We visited in 2023, so looking to get back.
You guys came to South Africa in 23?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's wonderful. We will get more into that conversation. Claudia.
Hello, everyone. My name is Claudia Maloney. I was born in Guyana, South America. I now reside in Loganville, Georgia. And I will be visiting South Africa in January. And I'm looking forward to meeting with Brother Assad and the many wonderful people that's living there in South Africa, because I'm looking to make South Africa my next home.
I tell you, the community is growing, brother Michaela. Sister Michaela and Tim could probably attest to it. The community when I first moved, or let me say when I first visited in 2019, it was a couple of thousand, but at this point, I'm not sure what the number is. It's probably closer to maybe about 4,000 African Americans countrywide, with most of them residing here in Joburg, and a decent contingency in Cape Town. Brother William White.
Hey everybody, William White, live in Kansas City, Missouri. Freezing cold here. Got a chance to visit South Africa in February of 2024. Fell in love with the place. Looking to come back and visit again next year.
All right. Did you make it to Joburg or Cape Town or both?
I made it to Joburg. I was in Joburg for about 10 days and got there and mind was blown. Just
Yeah.
completely, all the people. I mean, it was wonderful. I mean, I got on that plane and low key felt sad. Got back to Atlanta, Georgia, and was looking around like, this is what I'm coming back to. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give it to my brother, Mabasa, last name. It's my brother we've had. He's a journalist here in South Africa. Uh, Naketo, you wanna jump in and introduce yourself?
Hi everyone. My name is Nkateko. Hi brother Assad. It's been a while. Uh, Great to be part of the group. As brother Assad said, I'm a news journalist, but I really am keen to be part of the community. I'm here in Johannesburg, and yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. I really enjoy the enthusiasm, African Americans have about South Africa. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation with everyone.
Thank you, my brother. My computer's giving me a little trouble here, I'm seeing. Dr. Welsh.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Jamara. I'm based here in Houston, Texas. Native of Southern California, moved to Texas in 2021. My family and I are looking forward to moving out of the United States to South Africa. That's where we have our eye on, hoping to do our discovery trip sometime next year. And I'm excited to be on the call today.
Well, welcome. H-Town is my second home. I love Houston, Texas. My wife is actually from San Antonio, but we would often drive. We would take a drive on a random Saturday to Houston and eat at various restaurants. A great Ghanaian restaurant called Zongo in Houston. And then my line brother lives in H-Town. Who have I missed? Because I've lost track at this point. Anybody else if you have not introduced yourself, please feel free to jump in. All right, great. That looks like it's everyone. So let's kind of get into the nature of this call. So often in the African American imagination, Africa has existed either as a dark continent or this kind of romanticized homeland. So as we are planning this homecoming 2026, December 1st through the 11th, the idea came about to have these kind of dialogue series, right? This kind of conversation with African Americans as well as with our South African family each month. Today is just me. Next month we're going to have guests, uh, some of our South African family to come in and kind of speak on these different topics that we listed. But again, Africa has existed either as the dark continent or a romanticized place in our imagination. So as we start to see this movement of Black Americans saying, the U.S. is just not the place. I want to either leave the U.S., number one, or number two, I want to go to Africa specifically. So what we have seen over the last 5 to 7 years is a growing community in Ghana, which has the largest population of African Americans outside of the U.S. is in Ghana. Then you have Tanzania. Rwanda has become another hot spot, but South Africa is indeed fire hot in terms of its attractiveness to African Americans. So what I wanted to have was a dialogue, not a lecture, but a dialogue about Africa, its place in Black America. Why is it important? So, in fact, I have 4 questions that I want to kind of guide this dialogue that we're having. And maybe before I start there, I'll give you a little bit of my background, my personal history. So, my relationship with Africa started in the Black Baptist Church in the South. My daddy's a Baptist minister. We used to have Black History quiz bowls in the church. My father had me reading a book called The Black Presence in the Bible, which talked about Egypt and Ethiopia and the mention of the Ethiopian eunuch in the New Testament. Then I attended an HBCU, which further broadened my interest in Africa and the African diaspora. I first visited the continent in 2009, where I went to Egypt, then to Tanzania. Since then, I've been to Morocco, Kenya, and of course, here in South Africa. Um, Although most African Americans can trace their ancestry to West and Central Africa, it is profoundly meaningful just to be on the continent and to actually touch soil, no matter if you touch soil in Morocco, which I call Diet Africa, like Africa Light, right? Or if you touch soil, in Ghana or Nigeria or East Africa or here in South Africa. It is something, sometimes we see it on TV and it seems so like performative when people are like, oh, I can't believe I'm here. But there's truly something that happens when you make that connection and your feet touch the land in which your ancestors once walked. Um, I always mention that Africa is not a utopia. It is a tough place in many parts of the continent, right? But like anywhere else, it contains its contradictions, it contains its challenges, and it contains its complexities. But at the same time, it is a place of immense beauty, great opportunity for those who are just purely capitalists, right? And I'm not a capitalist, but those who are purely capitalists, it is a great opportunity for investment and to actually make an impact and create wealth. And the people, every country that I visited, have been always been warm and welcoming and embracing. And from Egypt to Tanzania to South Africa to Kenya, I've always been told, welcome home, right? And that's something important as we talk about this homecoming. In Egypt, Arabs were saying to me, welcome home. When I got to Tanzania, they were saying to me, welcome home. Kenya, welcome home. And South Africa, welcome home. And so really trying to understand, this kind of the textures and layers of what does it mean to be home? What is home? So I wrote extensively about that in my previous book and how I had to deal with the changing concepts and definitions and realities of home. But for Black Americans, Africa has remained, whether we admit it or recognize it or not, an important part of who we are. So, for example, if you grew up in the Black church, I'm an old man, so in the old Southern kind of small Black Baptist churches, they used to do a ring shout, which is is West African. The call and response in our music traditions, either worship music or even in some hip hop, right? Or even jazz music. That's West African. Our language and linguistic traditions. Anybody familiar with the term reduplication? Um, um, so reduplication is when we'll say, fellas, if you see a pretty woman and she's attractive, you may say, "Ooh, she fine, fine." See how we use that twice? Or or she old, old. That's called reduplication. That is rooted in West African, in particular, linguistic traditions. The habitual be, he be going to the store, he be on that game, she be in the club, right? It doesn't mean that it means that she did it in the past. She does it presently and she will be doing it in the future. The habitual be is rooted in West African linguistic traditions. For those of us who on this call are from New Orleans, are familiar with New Orleans, our funeral traditions, our food ways, voodoo, right? Black masking, or what some people may call the Mardi Gras Indian traditions, are all rooted in West Africa in particular. So Africa has still remained a part of who we are, whether we recognize it uh, every day or not, or some things we just recognize as Black American traditions and not recognizing the DNA in those traditions. So, as I mentioned, there are four kind of questions that I want to kind of guide this dialogue. Again, it's not a lecture. I want us to really be kind of getting into this. So, the number one is, what has Africa meant to you personally, culturally, and imaginatively? The second question is, why is it important for African Americans to understand Africa and all of its complexities, not the romanticized nor the villainized, not the dark Africa and not the romanticized Africa, but the actual real understanding of what the continent is, the realistic. Number three, have you ever been to Africa? If so, where and how did it shape you? How did it impact you? And number four, if you have not visited Africa, why haven't you come? And do you plan to visit in the future? So those are the four questions I hope that we can engage with. I know we have new people who just joined the room. So if they engage in the question, make sure you introduce yourself. If you haven't, give us a little bit about yourself, and then we can start. So does anyone want to tackle or address the first question? What has Africa meant to you personally, culturally, and imaginatively?
Yes, I give it a shot.
Go ahead, my brother.
My first time in visiting South Africa was 2014. Didn't know much about it, and it definitely opened my eyes up. I actually went to Cape Town. That was my first time on the African continent, and just seeing how it kind of relates to the U.S. A lot of common things they have. So it really opened my eyes up to wanting to explore more. And I came back. I came back in 2016 and 19, and it's so far on. So I've been to South Africa at least about 7 times in other African countries. I've been to Zimbabwe, Eswatini, what was the other one? Lesotho and Botswana. So South Africa really opened my eyes up to wanting to explore other cultures and beyond the country. So it was a real eye opener for me.
Prior to you coming to just a follow-up question, prior to you coming to South Africa, what did you think about the continent? What, like, even growing up, what did you learn about the continent in school?
Well,
Go
in schools, especially in the U.S., I'm pretty sure in your state, but I went to school here in Florida, so we had moments where we had Black history, and but that was mainly pertaining to American Black history, and that was only for February during Black History Month. But other than that, we really didn't learn too much about Africa itself. Of course, we knew that we came from Africa, and from what we saw on TV with the kids starving to death, and the clothes, the normal stereotype that we saw on TV. But it really didn't open my eyes until I got there and started, well, seeing like, pretty much I've been lied about all this time, because we always thought that Africa was just this uh, distant place. Some people thought of it as a jungle. So when you get there, it definitely opened my eyes up to, okay, hey, these people, excuse me, it's just like the U.S. in many ways. You know, they have Uber, they have the same kind of methods of transportation. So I always said, never believe what people tell you. Always go out and see for yourself. And that's how I was pretty much raised, you know, that you got to go out and see things for yourself. So when I came to South Africa the first time, it really opened my eyes up, and all the things I heard about the people or about the culture itself, you know, was pretty much false.
Absolutely. I want to pick on my brother Darren Buckner, who I see has joined us, who, if I am not mistaken, will be here. If he's not here already, he will be here in a couple of days. Brother Darren, are you here? I mean, Brother Darren, can you hear me? You're on mute if you can. There you go.
Yeah, there we go. How you doing, brother? Dr. Saad, how are you?
I'm well, brother. How are you?
I'm great. Greetings to you, your wife, and your beautiful children. Yes, we'll be there soon. Not in a couple of days, I was hoping, but you guys know I have a dog, so believe it or not, the dog is harder to get over than it is for us. but we
Definitely.
will be there in January. We will be there in January. Looks like the first week in January if everything goes smooth. As far as the answer to your question, the first time we were in Africa was, I think it was 2022. Yeah. And we've been to a few countries. We've been to Kenya. We've been to Tanzania, Zanzibar, of course. We've visited South Africa, a little bit of Rwanda. Um, I forgot, and of course South Africa. Maybe that's it. But um, but I think growing up, you know, and I came from the Midwest. Coming from the Midwest, we didn't really learn anything about Africa. It just never even came up. I look back and I think about how that actually tells a lot. When you don't say anything at all, it shows how unimportant it is. And when I say unimportant, I'm talking about, you know, to the people that are teaching you. It has no significance, and you don't need to have a thought about it. You don't need to, it doesn't even need to cross your mind, because what you have here in the States is probably the best you're going to ever get. And of course, my earliest memories of Africa were always watching Tarzan. You know, you watch Tarzan and you see the white man speaking to the animals, even though the black folks have been there forever. And all of a sudden, white man coming there, he can speak to the animals. Some we couldn't even do. So it was just it was always a negative thing. Things that we heard about Africa when we did hear about it, or we would see the old cartoons. And you know, I might be speaking my age a little bit. I'm a little older than you guys probably, but you know, you see the cartoons and the cartoons of Africa and the monkeys jumping around and the black face and the, you know, he got the spears. And while they would take the truth, obviously some truth, and twist it and make it clownish, you know, is what they've always done. And I guess that was another way to keep you disconnected. It made you embarrassed. It made you not want to associate. You probably heard the term, and I don't even like to say it, but you probably know when they call it the booty scratcher. I'll just say that. And if you're familiar with the term, a lot of people know what it is. And I think back that as a child, even we would say stuff like that, you know, and we thought it was funny. But of course, that was our learning and our upbringing and what we've learned. And now, you know, just coming to the continent, I mean, you know, there was a sense of relief. I think that's you know, this. I'm coming to the finality of question that you asked of when I arrived and when I got there. It was a feeling of relief. I mean, a feeling that you know, by then, you know, we had YouTube and we heard people talking. The internet was out, but it was never true. At least more true until you start flying over the skies of the continent, and you start flying over the skies, and it was a real place. So you get off of this airplane, or before you get off, and you're seeing all this greenery, you know, flying, you know, I guess I forgot to mention Uganda. You're flying over the greenery of Uganda, and you know, it was just this sense of, you know what, how come it can't be just as good? It was even before I landed. And while I didn't romanticize it. I never really had that whole thing because I had been pretty traveled before anyway. But it was still a sense of relief to know that my people that look just like me, people that look like my aunties or my sisters or my mothers or my grandmothers, I mean, they were right there, and it's amazing to walk down the street, and the only way they could tell the difference you weren't from there in most cases is because maybe the way you dress, you know. But I've been in situations, and I'm sure you have too, Dr. Assad, and I'm sure other people that are here have been through it too. You know, you get there, and people start talking to you in their native language because they can't tell the difference. And I think, I've heard the welcome home over and over again, just like you have. But that was more of the welcome home, I think, better than any way to express outside of just saying it. Just the feeling of someone talking to me like I'm a part of them, and not knowing the difference or not expecting special treatment sometimes, which is the flip side that people don't understand. When I got there, and if I didn't open my mouth, I was being treated like everybody else. So, you ain't getting in front of the line. Who are you? So I think that part, it just made me feel like, I just felt like a man and I just felt normal. There was no standing out and there was nothing. And I think you and I, we had a conversation about it with talking about our sons, whereas you don't have to feel this need to shrink yourself. And I think that's like probably one of the biggest things. And because of that, I'm happy to join you guys in South Africa real shortly soon. And I'm so happy that my son is surprisingly being in middle school, or in high school, 15 years old. Well, actually turned 16 today. He said he seems he's very open. I mean, actually somewhat, I would say slightly excited. I don't want to get too I don't want to get, too happy about that yet. But so
Hmm.
far, I mean, like, I don't see any resistance. So it's a beautiful thing. There's no resistance. And I think that's because of the exposure and probably has a little bit to do with growing up with his mother being from Guyana in South America. So, it probably has a little bit to do with that. And being used to being around Black folks that don't sound like you as an American. So it probably helps. So I hope I answered the question. And thanks a lot, Dr. Jamara, for wishing my son a happy birthday. And I'll make
That's
sure I
right.
push
Happy
that.
birthday, brother Malcolm. You got a
Yeah.
strong name, brother Malcolm. Yeah,
Yes, yes. And I guess there's no secret as to how he got that name. I'm his
that's right.
father.
That's wonderful. That's
I
wonderful.
appreciate you guys letting me talk, and I'll be seeing you guys soon.
All right, my brother.
So
Don't go
real,
nowhere.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm here.
real quick. So I've been following Mr. Buckner. I've been following you for a minute. So is this the move to South Africa?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
We've
All right.
Yeah, and I'm glad you've been following us. I've been slowing down. My daughter, if you've been seeing my daughter, she's all over the place now. She's out of the military, and she'll be joining us in South Africa soon, also. But she's
Okay.
right now she's in Colombia, and she said, "Look, this is the Black people of Colombia. I love it over here." So, but yeah, absolutely, this will be our move. Where
Okay.
it was a long time coming. It's a lot of
Yeah.
preparation, but we're prepared and I'll probably be back and forth a lot. I could see myself moving a lot like because now I'm going to be basically a foreigner in another country, so I'm going to be moving like I'll see some of the African brothers do here, where they go back and forth home and stuff like that. They go back and
Yeah,
forth for a little while because you got a lot of business stuff to take care of, and I own a lot of stuff here. From real
Right.
estate to other businesses that function here in the U.S. So for me as a man, I still got to do what I got to do, but I want to make sure my family is established, and I'm sure my wife is going to go ahead and make sure when I do come home, I'm always comfortable, and we're going to get more established.
Okay.
absolutely, man. Well, congratulations on the move. Anybody that's made the move, I've made it, and brother Tim and sister Michaela, they have made it, and a few others. It is it is a difficult thing to do. Sometimes I think it's more emotionally difficult than it is actually like logistically difficult, like to uproot yourself. And that's why I had to deal with these issues of home, right? Being a New Orleanian is so much of my identity. But brother Darren, you touched on something that I think is very important, and particularly for African American men. And there's a brother here, Dr. James Bennett, and he lives here in area of town called Blue Valley, but he actually went to undergrad in New Orleans at Xavier. And before we moved here, we both he and his wife and my wife had visited South Africa. We were all thinking about relocating, and he's from Mississippi, and he would come in New Orleans. We would have dinner. And one time at dinner, he was saying, every time I leave South Africa or the continent in general, and I get on a plane, it feels like I'm putting on a weight vest. And it's like you're adding all of this pressure back to yourself, you know? And if you live it every day in the States, you don't recognize that you're carrying it. It is not until you get the opportunity to put it down that you realize how heavy it was. And for me, it became so heavy that I didn't want to pick it back up. I was like, I have to relocate. I have to get out of here for my own sanity. Some people talk about the racism and all of that is part of it, but it's also the general American culture. Right now it's festive season here in South Africa. Ain't nobody working. Everybody is meeting at people's houses and eating and going out to restaurants and you think, wow, like I still have a job in the US and I'm like, I got to go to work on Wednesday. I took off Monday and Tuesday, but I got to go to work on Wednesday. I got to work up until Christmas, right? That's the American. So the idea of, so here in Joburg, people are leaving, going back to their home. They call them their homelands, right? They're going back to the rural areas to be with their family for until January, until deep into January, January 15th or something like that. That value of family and being at home and not having all of that pressure of the way that America puts on you, besides the racism, white supremacy, and all that good stuff, it's the other just the grind you until you die type of culture that is absent here, which makes living here much more just beautiful in many ways. So anybody else want to tackle that first question?
Real quick, Dr. Assad, if you don't mind, if I just say one more thing, and I hope everyone doesn't mind, but it was just a touching back on what you just said about the weight. Um, I know what you feel because even now, believe it or not, when I even talk to you right now, and this is just me being open as a man and trusted amongst my people here, even now, just talking to you, it actually almost saddens me because I'm not there. It saddens me because I have a son, and for him to have to continue every day and watch his father to work so hard and not be able to stop, afraid to stop, because I know there'll be consequences behind me stopping. And I don't want to have to do that. And I don't want them, I don't want him to have to see that as normal. It's 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 sad. And I think anyone who has a son, and I'm not discounting the daughters, but because women have their own struggle. But as men, African American men, we have, I my daughters recognize, and I have two daughters, so and I have a wife. So, but they know and they understand that is a different type of struggle, especially when you talk about the kind of man who believes in taking care of his family and he wants to be there and be alive for his family. And that's just me being transparent, but I feel the emotions and I'm like, I can't wait. I can't wait till there's a full time where I don't have to come back anymore. And I'm gonna be working on it, but I can't wait. And like I said, this is not about romanticizing, but this is just not normal. It's not normal. And I can feel it. It's not normal. We shouldn't all be sickly all the time. And the last thing you talked about family, and this is probably very difficult because I know you went through it, Dr. Assad, but my mom is up there in age. I have a brother, and I told you, I think you've talked to my brother before. He's dealing with cancer, and my younger brother. And I was happy that my daughter, my oldest daughter, she was watching me and she was like, wow, Dad, you're going to do this. She said, people are telling you, oh, what about your mom? What about your brother? But I was so happy to have the support of my family because my mother, I remember one day she said, and my brother was sitting there, both of them. And it was like, you can't do anything if you are here. You can't change this. They said, so you have to do what you have to do because you have to go ahead and think about the future generations ahead. And I don't know if anybody else gets that kind of support, but man, you want to talk about a weight lifted off my shoulder right there? That
Yeah.
was a bad boy. And I
Yeah.
still feel it, but it just takes a lot off. It takes a lot
No,
off. But
no.
anyway, I've taken enough of y'all time. But
No, no,
I'm still
absolutely,
like,
brother. I want
mhm.
to hear from some of the sisters. Any sisters want to jump in and kind of the question again, because I know we've kind of worked around it and is what has Africa meant to you personally, culturally, and imaginatively. So any sister want to jump in and touch on it?
I'll touch on it. Hi, I'm Makia Wilson. This is my husband, Timothy Wilson. We live here in South Africa. And the continent to me personally was a dream long coming. Well, a vision started with my parents. Well, started before my parents, but my parents were they were Pan-Africans. My father was part of the Nation of Islam. And I just remember sitting on his lap and him telling me about many African stories. Him buying me different books about African folklore and tales, telling me about the Tower of Babel, the splitting, and I remember him wearing his kufi with the diamonds and the moon when I would see him, and so the journey kind of started there, and that was odd being from Norfolk, Virginia. Most people we grew up with were Christian, and my mom was Christian, my dad was Muslim, and just having that upbringing of those two kind of worlds merging together, having the name that I carry, it's kind of, I carry Islam and Africa like with me as a young lady. Like my husband will tell you, like we went to school together, and they would be like, "Oh, you still dating that African girl?" and I'm straight, I'm straight from Norfolk, Virginia, and so it was always in my soul, in my heart, and that just kind of that grew with me as I grew older, and went into the military. Is always in my thoughts, like I feel like I belong in Africa. I always felt kind of, this is where I was born, but it's somewhere else I need to be. Some energy I need to drop off. Somewhere else I belong. And our journey started about 2020.
Yeah.
We had a vision board. We wanted to get out of America. Vision board. I served. I did all I could do. I loved up on my family. We moved around the country. And it was just like, no, we ready to launch off with our children while they're still young, because I know the older it gets, the harder it can get. And it was just a lot of heat coming. I have a son as well, so I understand what Darren Buckner is talking about. I have a daughter, a boy and a girl, and a lot of the shootings and just a lot of things that were going on. And my mom passed, my dad passed, and none of them got to live out that dream, that vision. And so we felt it was up to us to do it. Now, mind you, I hear everybody, they say, hey, we went back and forth to the continent. We had not been to the continent.
No, we haven't.
We just had a vision of the continent in our head. We had
that romanticism.
Yeah.
And that what led us.
Yeah, that led us spiritually,
Yeah, like to me, it's no different than the Hajj. So that's how much of a spiritual connection it is for us. Because like my wife was saying, her family helped rescue me. They turned me onto the deen. So meeting them, because my own family, they never talked about Africa at all. They didn't mention it. So when I got around them, it was like a breath of fresh air. I was like, man, I ain't know black people talk like this, So
and that kind of led our journey in our heart. And we said, we're going to walk out on faith, and we're going to do this. Now, in the military, I had gone someplace and never been there. So that's why I was like, how many places have I been to? Ain't never been there, but I lived there. So I said, you should do your research, network, contact people. And then we steadily went. Yeah. We started in the Virgin Islands first, that's an all black everything.
Yeah, and so
in the U.S. Virgin Islands, so that introduced us to living abroad. Believe it or not, it's not exactly like living in the U.S. It's small town.
They drive on the other side.
They drive on the other side of the road, so that prepped us.
And then they speak another language. They speak Crucian.
And then culturally, I feel like the Caribbean is much closer to their roots. Not that we're not, but that they're openly much closer to the roots.
And the VI
so,
has its challenges too.
Yeah,
it's not all sunshine.
Hey, the lights, sometimes the power go out, know, and you might not know when it's gonna come back on. So it was a lot of different things that prepared us for living abroad there. And then we went to Puerto Rico, where hey, it's all Espanol, but still that African essence is there. And we stayed in both places for a year. So there was 2 years while we were still preparing everything. Because like Dr. Assad said, the prep for this
has to be done right.
It has to be done correctly. And you really have to think about your priorities. And we're people that say, hey, whatever I do, wherever I go, I have to make sure that I'm rooted so that I don't get knocked out and now I'm back in the US when I would have, just made smarter moves. And since we had never been, we had to think about this very smartly. And then we finally made that launch in February of 2023?
2023,
yeah. And so we were here and we were just like, man, it was a breath of fresh air, but it wasn't to where, like you see some people kissing the ground. There's nothing wrong with that. But it was a breath of fresh air, but we were just like, we're ready. And we felt like Joburg was a smooth landing. It wasn't too rough entering here into South Africa. Right. And that's because we had 2 kids and we was like, hey, we don't want it too rough, because certain parts of the continent going there, you got to be prepped.
That's what we learned from the Virgin Islands. You got to be ready, especially for rural areas.
Yeah, if the infrastructure is not where you want it to be,
you got to be.
It can be difficult, and with kids and education and all that, we felt like South Africa was the best. So it's not the U.S. at all, but it was some similarities that made us comfortable and made us confident to be able to do this without having had the constant trips back and forth to establish everything. And the community here is strong. We met with Dr. Assad, the meetup. It was a really good vibe. And it was just everything. I feel like I'm forgetting something in my excitement to tell.
But I think I think that is real, because if I start talking about it's like you want to run it, because there's a love. Black people and Black Americans have a love for each other, whether we treat each other bad sometimes, but underneath that there's this orientation of love. And if you can, as in Islam we say, I want for my brother that which I want for myself, right? So if you know that there's something better, you want to try to tell everybody, and you're excited about it, like, man, I see what you're going through because I've been through it. Let me tell you, there's something different, but I've learned that everybody is not ready. Everybody is not able. I was reading some slave narratives recently, and you know how many people wanted to leave the plantation, but they were tied there not because they didn't have the chance to escape, but they had family, they had children, they had a grandmother there, right? And they're like, I can't leave Big Mama on this plantation by herself. So I'm going to sacrifice my life and my happiness and my freedom in order to stay here. So everybody's situation is different. I think you're making some very important points about preparation, though. If there's anybody who's thinking about making this move to the continent, preparation, what does they say? What is it saying? Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Yes, there
you go. You have to be prepared.
Exactly.
You
got to be prepared, and you got to be prepared emotionally. Since we've been here, my father-in-law passed. He was sick prior to.
Condolences.
But he didn't want to hold us back from that. That we had family members who didn't exactly want us to go either or understand really. But we know we needed to start that bridge. And now one of my brothers is like, sis, I think we gonna get our passports together, and we really thinking hard about coming in, where he wasn't thinking that. It's my oldest brother. He wasn't thinking that before, but now he is. And I just say, hey, we're here. We felt a mission to be the bridge. And I know a lot of people don't maybe like to talk about it spiritually, but I had visions, and my mother came to me and specifically told me about an area called Hardabees.
Hardabees
And
Port.
we did go visit Hardabees, and it's beautiful land out there, beautiful farmland.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, she came to me and said, hey, I need my Hardabees medicine. I said, what Hardabees medicine? What is this? And I looked it up. And when she came to my room, I looked it up and I was like, wow, this is confirmation. And we were like halfway here. When I say we were in Puerto Rico, and I was like, wow, this is really confirmation. And we live kind of close to Hardabees Port.
Yeah, we're close.
So it was really confirmation for us that this was the right move to make. Mentally, spiritually, physically, our health has gotten better.
Yeah.
And anything that we found that was going on, we're able to get it done. The doctors actually talk to you.
They don't,
you know. So it's been really eye-opening, and I tell anybody, hey, take that. If you're feeling that pull, take that leap, but take it with preparation. You know,
Absolutely.
that's the best advice.
So I want to pivot to the next question, which was, why is it important to understand Africa and its complexities, not the romanticization? Although y'all saying the romanticization, fueled your move, right? But I'm sure that when you got here, there was still load shedding, right? And you find that some of the processes move a bit differently. Sometimes I would say a little bit slower than in the U.S. But before I do that, I see we have brother Nondola on, and just want to give him an opportunity to greet the people. He's a South African brother, I'm assuming by the name. So do you want to say something, brother?
I guess you're talking about me, right? Ndola?
Ndola, yeah. I'm talking about you, brother.
Yeah. We talked a couple of times some years back. I don't know if you remember that.
I don't, but I'm talking to you now.
Well, it's good to see you again, Doc. My name is Ndola Lesaro. I was born in Botswana. Yeah, and my early years of education was in South Africa. I spent many, many years in South Africa. But from there, I moved to the state of Texas, where your wife comes from.
Yes.
Remember now, lived in Dallas for over 20 years.
Wow.
Currently I'm in Atlanta, Georgia.
I remember you now, brother. It's coming back.
Yeah. Yeah. I work for one of the major airlines out here. So, and I'm looking into possibly coming back home. Now I'm looking into within 5 years, I want to move back either to South Africa or Botswana or Namibia. I'm checking those three countries. Of course, Botswana is my birth country, right? That's where I come from. But I love what you're doing. I support what you're doing. I want us to, this past week, I watched two videos about some hate. You mentioned something about complexity within how we relate our culture and all that. And I watched something that bothered me a little bit. And an older guy who, educated, but was spewing hate against Africa. And the guy is African, but he lived here, I think, New York for many, many years. And he's spewing some really serious hate against African American in general. I thought we need some education among ourselves. So that's why I salute what you're doing. We need to educate our people, ourselves, and stand with each other. And so what you're doing, I support you, wholeheartedly. I have your phone number. We talked before.
Okay.
And so I'm gonna be coming down to some of the gatherings that you hold, the meetings. I wanted to attend one, but I couldn't. But I come to South Africa regularly, so I'll be seeing you guys over there.
Thank you, my brother. I think it's important that you brought that up, because if you pay attention to stuff online right now, the diaspora wars are going on, and everybody's kind of getting their feelings. You have African Americans versus the continent. You have British versus the Caribbean, and everybody's beefing, right? And a lot of people disheartened by that. Some of the stuff that is being said is very vicious, just very rooted in xenophobia and anti-blackness, anti-Africanness. But I sit back and say, you Negroes not arguing with Chinese people. And why is that important? You're not arguing with Irish people. You're arguing with people that you know you're related to. If you did not see commonality and common roots in these people, you wouldn't be having these conversations. There would be no diaspora war. And for 400 years, we have been separated, right? This is the first opportunity that we can have these conversations across continents. Social media has made, you're in Atlanta. I'm sitting in Johannesburg. There's people on from various places on this call. It's the first time that we're in history that we've been able to have these type of interactions, and there's going to be some bumps in the road. There's going to be some a learning curve for each community. And again, that's why I find South Africa to be so um, important in this discussion, in these dialogues, because it is one of the easiest places for African Americans to relocate. It's the language. Everyone speaks English, even though there's 11 official languages, right? Um, and it's the common history and relationship with racism and white supremacy. Unlike other places on the continent where there was colonialism, South Africa had settler colonialism, two very different presentations of colonialism. One is where you have a colony, but the ruling class is in another place, and you may have a governor, and that governor, it's a small population of the colonizers. But in South Africa, the colonizers relocated, and then, much like the United States, split from their home countries, and they were here present, right? And it's the same thing that happened in the United States with the British colonies, and then of course like the Louisiana Purchase and stuff. So um and because of that history of racism and white supremacy, apartheid in South Africa, Jim Crow in the United States, there's this commonality, there's this ease of conversation, there's this understanding that when you go to maybe Kenya or Nigeria or Ghana, there's a sister, and I don't want to butcher this sister's name. And last time I was on a live, I butchered her name, so I won't say it. But she's I believe she's Nigerian, and she said I didn't know I was black until I came to the United States. Because in Nigeria, she identified as whatever, maybe Yoruba or whatever have you, and this is all black people. So she didn't have to like, you know, uh, um, catalog herself into the black category, right? She was whomever whatever her ethnic group
Tradition,
was.
cultural.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
cultural tradition. But here in South Africa, they're because of white supremacy, there are black people who understand what it means to be black, even if they are Zulu or Xhosa or whatever. They still understand what it means to be black people, and so there's this ease that you have when relating and dialoguing and communing. Certain stuff you don't have to explain. When I say how many white folks, they be like, "Oh yeah, I know how the white people are." I'll be like, "Yeah." So let's move on, family, because I know we are. I wanted to do this in an hour, but I guess we all can talk a lot. Um, so I guess the question is, why is it important for African Americans to understand Africa and all of its complexities? Anybody want to tackle that and give their opinion on that? Maybe some people. Go ahead.
I don't want to tackle it, but you're talking about Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie.
That's who I'm talking about. I can't pronounce her name, sister. It's hard for me. I just learned to speak correct English. I come from New Orleans. But yeah, that's who it is. So anybody want to tackle it? Why we must learn about Africa and its complexities, and not like the dark continent or the romanticization of the continent. Maybe somebody who's visited, or Doc, if you have a statement.
I've not visited, but I just think about, I think it was Marcus Garvey talked about a tree without roots. Like if you don't know your roots, then there's so many issues because we have had an identity crisis. And
Mm.
so knowing that our history didn't start, for those of us that have been in the US for a number of generations, knowing that our history did not start with slavery is very, very important. I know for me as a parent, it's important for my children to know your history started from beyond your distant ancestor getting off a boat here into perpetual slavery. And so really about being rooted. Africa, though very diverse, it implies culture, and that is so important.
Absolutely. Uh, Sister Rochelle or Claudia or anybody want to jump in? Got a lot of sisters on the call, but y'all been quiet. I want to hear some of the sisters talk.
Good afternoon, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Sister Renee.
Hi. Well, I'm here in Chicago in the Windy City. I wanted to address the initial question, but for the sake of time, I'll address this question. I feel that you do yourself a disservice if you go over to just not Africa, any country with Western ideologies or Western mindset, thinking that we're the end all be all, when, and particularly African Americans, we are, when you look at it, we're on the outside looking in. Africa is like ground zero for humanity, for everyone that exists on planet Earth. So I think we need to go with an open mindset. If you have any expectations or any curiosities about relocating to Africa, or, well, since we're talking about Africa, but to Africa, you have to go with an open mindset. You're going to quickly become disenchanted if you go with that Western imperialistic mindset that we're the end all be all and everything over here is right. I often tell people, if everything in America is right, you should stay there. Who would leave where everything is perfect?
Right.
Everything is right, stay. If that's for you, African Americans, we have a right to be here. And so if you want to stay here, stay here. But if you want to explore, take off that imperialistic hat and go with an open mind to learn, to explore, and to understand. And that's the way I see it. Like you're gonna quickly become tired. You're gonna quickly seek the first plane back to the Americas if you don't go with an open mindset and realize that we don't know all that we think we know, and particularly our history and who we are, where our ancestors came from, how they were living prior to us being carried here, and the advancements that the continent of Africa has made and all that it has to offer, all that it has to give, and the part that we can play in it as the diaspora, to go there and maybe relocate there and find some sense of peace or balance. There's not a lot of balance in the United States of America. It's like I call it the hamster wheel. You know, it's the work until you die program.
Yes.
And so you definitely have to, if you want to find some work-life balance, you really have to think outside of the United States of America. It is the system that you were born into. It is not the system that you built. And so you need to learn to play the game that you were placed in. These are the cards that were dealt you. Learn to play them to your advantage.
Yes.
And maybe that might just be on the continent of Africa. It might be, I like Southeast Asia, but Africa is I can't even begin to explain it. I can't explain it. My experience with first touching down the west coast of Africa, Ghana. I was at that time. My mom had she was deceased, but my dad getting close to 95 years old, and I didn't know how to tell him that I was actually going to take that long trip. And his response kind of really just settled it for me. He said, "You're just going home."
Oh.
And I kind of like, I didn't expect that. Like, why would he give me that answer? Like, he's never, as a family, we've never discussed Africa. We never spoke about it. You know, I think about W.E.B. Du Bois, The Souls of Black Folks, how we wear many different hats, you know,
Yeah.
to just try to acclimate, make it through, survive, you know. And so we wear those different hats. We're, you know, when we're getting from a certain people, we're a certain way, we speak a certain way, you know, and it's just for survival. So we, a lot of times we were not, and I'm an older Black woman living, like I said, in Chicago, and I didn't grow up hearing about Africa. I don't even know where I got the curiosity from. But I had the opportunity to go in my undergrad studies for study abroad. And I didn't want to leave the continent. And I couldn't understand why. I didn't romanticize about it. I had no fantasies about it. I had no expectations about it. For me, it was a free trip, you know, given by my institution. And so I'm just like, of course, I'll go visit Africa. But I was just like, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not trying to be mysterious or some type of spiritual experience. I can't articulate what happened to me. I don't know what it is. I just know when I touched ground in West Africa, it was like I had been there before, but I knew I had never been on the continent before. I had never been on the continent of Africa before. But I was, like my father said, I was home. I had no hesitation about the food, about the people, I had no safety concerns to a great extent. It was just like I was dropped into the place that some part of me once existed there. And so it was a grand experience for me. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Just go with an open mind. You know, if you're
No,
looking for
that's
something different, open your mind up.
No, that is absolutely beautiful. So much I want to say. First of all, I'm glad you had that experience at your undergraduate institution, because that's the work that I'm trying to do here. Is we're constantly trying to bring in HBCU students to visit the continent, because it is at that point in in people's lives where they are most open and they are thinking about the possibilities of life. And you know, Black folk in America think that their problems will be solved if they move to Atlanta or Dallas, right? And I want them to think, hey, I can move to Joburg, I can move to Nairobi, or I can move to Ghana. Second, that idea that your father, 95 years old, right? And you didn't really grow up in like a Pan-African household where you're talking about Africa. And he says at 95 years old, you're going home. As a sister, Dr. Imani Shepherd, and she was telling me about epigenetics. Like I don't know, whatever she is. She's one of them real smart doctors in the sciences and stuff, right? But she said to carry your epigenetics, or your epigenetics carries memory, right? From ancestors hundreds of years ago. And so often we'll hear Black Americans say, well, I'm not leaving because my ancestors built this country, which is 1,000% true. We have every right to be in the United States. However, there's an ancestor that was on that boat that dreamed of going home, right? There was an ancestor who made it to that cotton field in Mississippi, and straight from Senegal or from the Gold Coast, and was like, this is not where I need to be. I want to go home. And though you still carry that in your genes, you still carry that longing, that memory. So when you step foot and you're like, damn, why does it feel like I've been here before, but I ain't never been here before? That's your ancestors and your gene. I don't want to get spiritual or whatever, but I'm saying that's your genes talking to you. Brother William, I saw you had come off of mute. Did you want to jump in?
I think for me, one of the beauties of social media, even with all the trash that's out there, is being able to see people like you and Darren Buckner and others. Honestly, my trip to South Africa was fostered by watching videos of you go there, visit, and then, you would go visit a couple of more times, and next thing you know, we moving. Like, why is everybody moving to this place? What is going on? And it wasn't just you. It was just a series of people that I kept watching who would go visit two, three, four times, and next thing you know, yeah, we get ready to move. So I was like, all right, I need to go and see this for myself. And once again, you talked about load shedding, you talked about all the things. So guess what? When I get there and I experience load shedding, it's just load shedding. All right.
Yeah.
What are all the other things I can do? And it was meeting the people. It was, having these conversations where they knew more about America and what was going on than I could even remotely imagine. I'm in Ubers and they like, hey, are y'all really gonna put him back in? I like, look, I don't want to, but hey. And so you get there and I didn't have this romantic idea. It was just get there and experience it. And I think that going there with an open mind and actually, feet on the continent and meeting the people and just having the conversations just made me go, yeah, I could do this. I mean, I tell people I can go to St. Louis, which is like 3 hours away from here, and I go do what I need to do, and I'm ready to get back to Kansas City.
Mhm.
I was there for 10 days. And that last day, I'm walking the malls and the streets and everything and going, I got to leave this.
Yeah.
And I hopped on that plane and I got to Atlanta. And the minute I had an interaction with the person at the airport, I was like, yep, you back in the US.
Mm.
And since then, I have been like, I need to get back. And so next year, I was like, yeah, you going back,
Yeah.
It is that true, that welcome home hits.
Yeah.
And when you go to the museums and you see the history that is pretty much aligned with everything that happened in the US, yeah, I understand why this is a pretty good soft landing spot for African Americans.
Mm.
But then also the number of people who are going there, and like you said, they're looking to visit. They're looking to relocate. They're just looking to get away from this. We're not going to leave any bad situation and move to a worse
Right.
situation for people. So guess what? If there are a whole bunch of people moving to Johannesburg, South Africa, what's going on over there? I need to go and visit and see it for myself.
No, absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Go ahead, sister.
So, not being from the US, being born in Guyana, I am used to the load shedding, being without water. I mean, I grew up in that time when those were things that happened consistently. I moved to the US at 23 years old and I made the US my home. So for me, coming to South Africa is really like going home. I
Mm.
am not going to miss the US one bit. I had moved to Panama for a short period of time, had to come back here because of some things that went on with my daughter. I know you talked about preparation. We did prepare, but the one area we didn't prepare in was the medical area.
Yeah.
And it kind of cost us quite a bit in Panama. So we had to come back and reset. Okay. And a friend of mine is moving to the Ivory Coast, and she kept telling me, Claudia, you have to look into Africa. You have to look into Africa. And she, started talking about South Africa, how the medical there is some of the best. And that's what I did. And I started looking at your videos and some other videos. And I'm like, gosh darn, all these people moving to South Africa. What's wrong with me? You know, spoke to my daughter about it. She wasn't happy about it. And it was just tugging at my heart. And I'm like, but I gotta go. But I didn't want to leave her. And we spoke a few nights ago, and she said to me, Mom, the only thing I know about Africa is mud huts and dirt roads.
Mm.
But from me talking about it so much, she started doing her own research. And she said, Mom, I'm ready to go. So we were talking about a 2-year plan. I'm coming in January. And once I have everything done, we're moving there next year.
Mm.
It's not going to be a 2-year plan for us. We are ready to be out of the US like yesterday. And
Mm.
I'm not going to miss the US. I'm not from here. all the craziness that's going on, I don't have to put up with it. I made it in the US, and any part of the world I go, I can do the same.
Absolutely. So to that story, we visited in 2019. So I've mentioned on this call already several times, I'm a New Orleanian. I had no intention of leaving my neighborhood. You understand what I'm saying? Not even leaving my neighborhood, let alone the city or moving to another country. We were taking our kids. My wife is from San Antonio, grew up her father was in the military. She didn't want our children to have that same kind of, I guess, in the way of limitation. Like, the seventh ward is the greatest ward on earth, and I'll never need to leave here. Whoop de whoop. So we started taking the kids to these different places, and we'd land in Istanbul, and 5 minutes later, I was like, I can't wait to get back to my house, right? And, we'll land in Morocco. I can't wait to get back home. When I landed here, I was sitting in Rosebank, and I looked around and I saw all these black people. Some of them I later found were like colored too, because there's a different racial classification. And in one of these series, we'll actually talk about these different racial classifications and which makes South Africa another easier place. I'm looking at Brother Blake right now. Like, you get here, they're going to talk to you in Afrikaans. They're going to think you are colored. My wife, they think she's colored because of her complexion, but which also means that there is a category for you here. There's a place for you here. You don't look out of place because there are people here who look like you. But anyway, so in 2019, I made the mistake of saying in front of my wife, man, I could live here. And oh man, it was on and popping at that point because she was ready to get out of the U.S. a long time. When we got married in 2009, that's when we went to Tanzania. And throughout the marriage, she was like, "Oh, we ought to move to Tanzania. Oh, we ought to move to Kenya." And I'm like, "How can't you get this through your head? I'm not leaving the seventh ward." You know what I'm saying? So, and when I said that, she was like, well, we got to figure it out. So it was a 10-year plan. You talk about a 2-year plan. We started figuring out. COVID hit, and that's when it really kind of struck us like, okay, well, what do we want life to look like in the next 10, 20 years? So we said we have a 10-year plan. We're going to retire and maybe move to South Africa. We'll just buy a property there and go every year, take the kids. The kids will feel like they have a connection to the continent. COVID, drug on, and it went from a 10-year plan to a 5-year plan. Then it went from a 5-year plan to how can we get out of here next year? And so this is like 2021 at this point. We came to South Africa 3 times in 2021, and it was like, okay, we got to go. So we moved in August of 2022. We throughout that time, we were still making plans. We started thinking about the visa options we needed. Where do we want to live? The schooling for our kids, because that's another important thing. When you start thinking about moving specifically like to Johannesburg, you have to think about, okay, my children are going to go to this school. I have to live in this area because this is a big ass city. Let's just be clear. Like, it from where I live to where my frat brother lives in South Joburg, it's a 40-minute drive, right? So you cannot have your kids, and you have to pick your residence based on what school you want your children to attend. We thought about medical insurance and medical care. And during COVID, if y'all remember the Omicron variant, I believe it was called, that was discovered by scientists here in South Africa. And then they tried to make it. It was the South African variant. It wasn't the South African variant. They just discovered it here in South Africa, meaning the researchers discovered it, right, and put a name to it. So some of the best medical care in the world. If you are sick and you need specialists and you're on the continent, you come to South Africa, right? This is where your specialists are: cancer specialists, HIV, AIDS, whatever you need, all the specialists are here. And for Americans coming with the USD, I won't say that healthcare is affordable because when I'm talking to my South African friends, right, it's expensive because they earn rand. But because most of us are coming earning USD or we coming with the dollar, it is extremely affordable, right? My blood pressure medicine cost me $2.13 every month, right? Um, you know, Having when my son got sick, he had the flu. And to have a doctor make a house call, just pause right there. Like doctors making a house call, right? Cost me $75. You know what I mean? So yeah, $75. So that's quite amazing for South Africa. But I believe it was Sister, oh, the previous sister that spoke. I don't know if she's still on, but she mentioned preparing yourself mentally and not bringing that kind of American mindset. Dr. Cornell West, who's somebody I look up to uh, immensely, he has a phrase. He calls it de I'm gonna say denigrofying, but that ain't what he really say. It's the other N word. You know what I'm saying? He calls it denigrofying, getting some of that internalized white supremacy and that internalized self-hate out of your mind. You have to do the work of recognizing the trauma that has been inflicted upon us and the lies that have been told to us, and you have to do the work of removing that. Now, I'm not saying that when you come here it's perfect. You will see stuff that needs to be improved, but the way you approach it is it has to be differently than uh, this is the way we did it in the U.S. This ain't the U.S. This ain't the U.S. They do it this way, and they've been living and doing it this way for X amount of years, and it's stuff that you don't know, but you just see, oh, it appears to be wrong to you, right? Now, there's some things that I think could be improved, like, moving from like paper-based. When you go to the DMV, they still have paper. You filling out paperwork. Yeah, we can come to digital records, or whatever have you. But that's government inefficiency as opposed to anything else. Government is always behind. I want to pick on my schoolmate because she's still on this call. Naya, I hope you are prepared just to say something. Did she get off of mute or did she jump off when I said that? Oh, I see it. I'm gonna ask her to unmute.
I'm here. How you doing?
What's going on now? This is my Dillard University people.
Hey
So
y'all.
are you thinking about visiting the continent?
Yeah, I've been wanting to leave the US for some years, even prior to, the current environment. Um, and my interest came because I have a Yoruba middle name. I had a cousin who would always go to Africa. She was an artist. She would go to Nigeria specifically. And I believe that even if whether you know the meaning or not, your name speaks to your spirit. And so
Mm.
I've always had some type of interest in the continent, even just because I knew my name was from there.
Mm.
And so that had been, I think there was another sister that said she didn't really know where it came from because no one talked about Pan-African things in her house. No one talked about Pan-African things in my house either. I just saw a whole bunch of artwork and artifacts that my mom had, and then knowing that's where my name came from. And so that was something that was just always in my spirit, whether it's something, the genetics that you were talking about, just something that always just been in my spirit. And so for me, it's just me. Like, I don't have any children, I don't have a spouse, and so I don't have any I don't want to say anchors, but I don't have anything keeping me here necessarily. I do have a family member who projects fear. And so I know they have a fear of, I asked them recently, I'm like, if, something were to pop off, you ready to jump ship or whatever it was I said. And then they just started going down, rattling down a list of, oh, it's not that easy. It's this, it's this, it's this. And it wasn't, and it's not that easy. You just have to figure it out and make a plan of like what you're talking about. It was more of like, it's not that easy. And the undertone was, I'm afraid. And so for me, I have to look past that projection of fear that I've always been exposed to within my family and touch base with what I know has been put into my spirit before I even understood why I had those feelings. Because I've always been Pan African minded, even as a child, even in elementary school. I just didn't understand it. And so for me, it's just I I I've never felt home anywhere. I grew up in San Antonio, and that's where I'm at now. and it never felt right for me. The only place that really felt like home was in New Orleans at Dillard. And I think
Of
that's
course.
because I was around a whole bunch of Black folks, because being in San Antonio is not that. And
Yes.
so, I think that is something that, as you all keep talking about, it feeling like home, and it's the energy that y'all feel and what people say to you, welcome home, welcome home. I think that's something that's been mm, my objective wherever it is that I move. Even when I was trying to figure out where I wanted to move domestically, it's just I want to move somewhere that feels like home. And I can't really fathom anywhere in the US feeling like home just because of what I know my personality is and I know what my spirit is drawing me to, even just from a spiritual perspective. Being Black in the South and not being a Christian, that's a whole thing. And so for
Yeah.
me, it's just really where do I need to be to fully feel like myself and then be someplace where my spirit can exhale and breathe and take the weight off and feel at home. So that's what my interest is in figuring out where it is that I want to go abroad, specifically on the continent.
Well, I think you need to visit. And once you visit, I think a lot of those feelings will be answered or either triggered to the point where you're like, damn, I should have done this 20 years ago. Um, Sister Tanya, because I don't want to ignore anybody. Sister Tanya says she wanted to say something. And while she
Yeah,
does that,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said, while you do that, I'm gonna go off camera for 1 second.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll just keep it really brief. I echo what some of my previous sisters have said. I visited the continent in 2024. That was my first time. I didn't grow up in a Pan-African household. We didn't really talk about the continent or anything. I don't have any siblings. It's, just my mom and I, and my grandmother when she was living. And so, um, the continent always felt like this distant land that I would get to one day, but it wasn't in the forefront. When I graduated high school, I joined the military, and I'm gonna just keep it real. I joined because I wanted to see the world. It wasn't because, I'm loyal to America and I want to lay my life down on the line. And that's what you sign up for when you join. But it was like I want to see the world. I want to, there's other things out there. We're led to believe that America is the greatest and the baddest, and we do everything correctly, and that's not necessarily true. So, started doing some research, watch a lot of YouTube videos. We started seeing a lot of African Americans traveling to the continent, landed on South Africa. And I'm like, you know what? I want to go see for myself. So, and I had done so much research that, it almost felt like I had been there before. But when I landed, I it was just experience like, man, like everybody says, this feels really, really familiar. It almost felt like Johannesburg almost felt like a little mini New York to me. I grew up in Brooklyn and very familiar. They do some things different, which that's not a problem. I don't have any preconceived notions about what I thought it would look like or anything like that. I do go places with an open mind. I try not to take my Americanisms, with me and think that we do everything correctly and everybody has to do everything like we do. I like to, immerse myself in the culture and meet, South Africans and, hear about their experiences and how they do things. And definitely fell in love with South Africa. My mom went with me, and we bebopped around South Africa like, we had been there before. I wasn't, people try to say, oh, well, be careful, don't go here, or be careful. I didn't feel that at all. We bebopped around like we had been there before. We were trying to see everything, and we fell in love. And I'm like, you know what? I could possibly live here. And she was just like, yeah, me too. We have been talking about South Africa every day since we came back, and that was in 2024. So definitely trying to get back. I've been to Ghana twice. I love Ghana also. Ghana It's a little more rustic than South Africa. That's the best way I can kind of put it. If you've been, you know. But it's an amazing place. I went twice. I'm going back there also. I'm hoping to get to Kenya. And so I want to see as much of the continent as I can. But South Africa really spoke to me. So I'm hoping to, like I said, maybe purchase some property and maybe, even relocate.
Absolutely. So now we are at an hour and a half, so I don't want to hold folk on this call all night. So we're gonna wrap up. I'll just say that I appreciate everyone for jumping on, sharing their experiences and talks and participating in this dialogue. Um, the next dialogue series will be held January 11th, and we'll be talking about South Africa and the Black imagination and or the Black American imagination. And why is that important? We'll talk about some of the history. I'll present a little bit on some of the history, like the Fisk, or was it the Virginia Jubilee Singers who visited South Africa in the 1890s? The history of stepping in Black fraternities and sororities, right, comes from the gumboot dance. The African American Episcopal Church with Richard Allen came to South Africa. It has been in South Africa over 100 years ago. The anti-apartheid movement on HBCU campuses. If you remember Spike Lee's movie School Days, the premise of the movie was that not Furious Styles, but Lawrence Fishburne's character was asking his college to divest from South Africa, looking at the Cosby Show, believe it or not. The Cosby Show had Miriam Makeba on there. There is even an episode where Theo is sitting in his room, and on the wall is a picture of Steve Biko. There's an episode where Vanessa is going to a Halloween party and she's dressed up as a Zulu woman, right? All this stuff that was very subtle. It was never in your face, but it was very subtle. And then if you talk about like different world, they were talking about the anti-apartheid movement or whatever have you. So how there's been this long-standing relationship between South Africa and African Americans that we may not remember, but it's really been a very long time that we have had this contact with each other. There's a sister from the Seventh Ward. Her son actually lives here now, and um, oh, her name is escaping me, but she played a major role in the anti-apartheid movement she was a whistleblower at Polaroid. So she went to Xavier from the Seventh Ward, and I think she ended up moving to Massachusetts because her son is from Massachusetts. But she played a role in exposing that Polaroid was taking. So they had during apartheid they had those passports, right? Those passbooks had their pictures in it, and they had to be out of certain parts of town at a certain time, and if they didn't have that passbook on them, they went straight to jail. Well, those pictures that were taken, and Polaroid was basically contracted with the South African apartheid government, and she was one of the whistleblowers or whatever have you. Oh man, I'm so upset that I can't remember her name. Her last name would be Williams because the brother's name is Ken Williams. But anyway, so we'll talk a little bit more about that, and then we'll get into kind of just some really open dialogue. And the kind of purpose of this series is for those who are interested in South Africa, those who want to learn more. We will actually have one on the visa options and stuff like that, because I know a lot of people have those questions or whatever have you. But it's really learning more about the continent, learning more about South Africa specifically, and I'll make sure we have some more of our South African family on who can kind of share, because we want this to be a dialogue not just between you and I, but between our South African family and our American family, because there's a lot of things that you can learn, directly from our South African family that I can't share with you because I've only been here 3 years, right? Some of the cultural practices, some of the meanings, what is this idea of Ubuntu? I don't know if you guys are even familiar with. I know Michaela and Tim are, but this idea of Ubuntu and what does it mean and how does it impact how you treat everyday people as well as how you create policies, right? Because the policies have that same spirit of Ubuntu in it, and you can't you can't define Ubuntu in one word. You can't, you know what I'm saying? It is a concept that is overlapping with several different areas. So I thank y'all so much for joining us and participating. I'll be sending out the stuff on Facebook again and on YouTube again, and hopefully we'll all come back and have these great conversations. We will have other guest speakers to come on people who are far more learned than I am on different topics and subjects. And this is all to build up to homecoming in December. So you guys have a great rest of your night, rest of your